Today we're making Brussels sprouts au gratin, dairy-free. If you thought you didn't like Brussels sprouts, you haven't tried this cheesy, delicious goodness. Okay, so we are going to make a low-carb Brussels sprout casserole, and hopefully you'll be able to use this for your holiday table and get everyone introduced to delicious Brussels sprouts. I'm just going to show you how to clean them. They usually come in like a 1-pound package, and that's what we've got today. So you'll see they've got a little stem, and if you cut too far, then you're going to, well, let me just show you. So you could cut too far, and if it's way too far, then you're going to lose a lot of leaves. This one's not too bad, so that's fine. We're just going to pull off a couple of the outer leaves to make it nice and clean, and then we're going to cut that in half so that they'll cook evenly and just a little bit quicker for us. So just trim off that end and then pull off those outer leaves. And if that has just a few little spots, it's okay as long as it's not dirt, right? Sometimes it's just the natural coloration of the Brussels sprout, but if you don't like it, you can go ahead and trim that off as well. Just know that your Brussels sprout might fall apart and you might have a lot of just little leaves like that one. But that's okay too. You're going to want to get rid of those because they're going to burn in the oven while everything else cooks at 400 degrees. So your oven is preheating while we are cleaning these Brussels. So we've got a little spot there. Make sure that's not dirt, it's just the coloration. And absolutely wash these. I will before I put them in the oven. I just want to get them cleaned off first. I don't want to wash the outer leaves and the stem because that's just a waste of time. So we trim it, we remove a couple of the outer leaves until it looks good, and we have a nice tender Brussels sprout. Okay, so we have them all clean. Now, sometimes you're going to find that you're going to have a giant Brussels sprout in with a small Brussels sprout. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to cut them in half if you don't want to. That way they cook about the same amount of time. Or you could cut this one into quarters as well. If they get really large, absolutely cut them into quarters. So we have them cleaned and trimmed, and we have all of this left over that we're going to compost. But with these on our tray, and I like to go ahead and bake them, roast them right on the cooking sheet. That way they get a little bit crisper. If you were to use parchment, they're just going to steam a little more. So I kind of like it on the cooking sheet. And yeah, my mister doesn't work, so that's okay. We get a little oil. That's all good. So all I'm going to do is, with my clean hands, I'm going to mix them in with a little bit of that olive oil. You don't have to use much. You don't have to use any if you don't want. It just kind of helps them get a little crispier, a little more flavor. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to that. And toss that about. And then we're going to roast them for 12 to 15 minutes, depending on how hot your oven is. So I suggest you turn them all over onto the cut side, or, if you got the roundies, that's okay. Just throw them in there. And that way we make sure that they are all going to get a nice little golden side, and then we'll know which ones we need to turn as well. All right, we're going to put that in the oven for about 12 to 15 minutes, depending on how hot your oven is at 400 degrees. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make the cheese sauce while those Brussels sprouts are cooking. I'm just going to turn my burner on to about medium. I've got just a nice saucepan. We're going to add to that saucepan a cup of plant milk. Now I'm using soy milk because it's higher in protein, obviously unsweetened and unflavored. We don't want these tasting like vanilla, and we don't want these being sweet. So, but you can use whatever plant milk is your favorite, whatever you've got on hand. Almond milk, coconut milk, those two are going to maybe make it just slightly sweet, but if you're used to that flavor, then you're fine with it. That's fine. Whatever you want. To this 1 cup of milk, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of my Cheesy Bliss Sprinkle cheese powder. Now it's dairy free, it's delicious, it comes just like this, and all you have to do is mix it with your liquid. You could mix it with water if you're watching calories, or if you want it even creamier, you can mix it with the milk, and that's what we're going to do today. Now, you can buy my Cheesy Bliss Sprinkle cheese powder at intentionallyeat.com. Click on that shop tab to get it. It's just that powder, and it will be shelf stable for a long time. You'll always have it on hand, and it's fantastic. But if you don't have that, you don't want to buy it, that's okay. I'll still love you. You can use cashews with your plant milk. So soak them in hot water for at least 15 minutes or overnight in room temperature water. And then you can blend those. I'm going to go ahead and mix this with my whisk. Get all those lumps. And then you're just going to add onion powder, garlic powder, cornstarch or potato starch to get it to thicken. And whatever seasonings you really like. But I've done all of that for you. I will have both directions for you though, with the Cheesy Bliss sprinkle powder and also cashews, if you prefer to do it with cashews. So that's it. That's really hard. That is our cheese sauce. It's going to thicken as it heats. We're going to continue to stir it with a whisk. Do not walk away from this one because it will be a thick, gooey mess if you don't continue to stir. Now, I am going to add for this Brussels sprout recipe a little bit of Dijon mustard. Oh, I made a mess. That's okay. It all gets in there. And then a little bit of apple cider vinegar. So that was 2 teaspoons of Dijon and a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. You could use lemon juice if you prefer that. We're going to scrape that off and we're going to continue to stir. It's already getting thick. We're just going to bring that up to a little bit of a bubble, and then we're going to turn it back down. And this Cheesy Bliss sprinkle is fantastic on popcorn as well. Just dried, sprinkled it on popcorn. Ooh! Oh, that's so yummy. Okay, you can see that this is getting thick. What you're looking for is for it to coat the spoon just like that, and you want to get rid of those lumps. So keep stirring. And see how we're starting to get some heat coming off of it, getting a few bubbles. Yeah, but you got to keep stirring because it's starting to stick to the bottom. And then we're going to pour that over those Brussels sprouts when they get done. Okay, these are looking fantastic. Look at that beautiful gold color that we are getting. Nice roast. Now, you also want to make sure when you are roasting vegetables that you give them plenty of space in between. Otherwise, they're just going to steam and you won't get that nice caramelization. I'm just going to go ahead and flip these, and I'm going to put them back in that 400-degree oven for 3 or 4 more minutes. Just, oh, look at that one. Ooh, pretty. I got hot spots in my oven apparently. So just to make sure that they are nice and soft and tender once we fully cook them. Now, they won't be at this point because we're going to pour that cheese sauce over them, and then we're going to cook them just a little bit longer. Okay, our Brussels sprouts are out of the oven. They look fantastic. So this is the one that's a roundy, right? All you have to do, if you've got a couple of round ones that are small, just make sure you turn them over, right? That way they are nice and brown on both sides. I know there's another round one here somewhere, but oh well, that's okay. Oh, here he is. There we go, right? So you just make sure you've got it browned on both sides. Now, we're going to go ahead and put those in a slightly greased 8 by 8 or small casserole dish. You can see the size, right, of my casserole. It's not that big. This isn't going to make a ton. It's going to make about 4 servings, 4 sides. If you want, you can absolutely double this recipe for Thanksgiving or Christmas or just a nice, warm, hearty winter meal. Brussels sprouts are great anytime. And you can even get frozen Brussels sprouts. That's fine. Just cook them according to the package directions to thaw them. And then you can use this recipe the exact same way. Okay, so we are going to get these in that dish. Just kind of nestle them in there. That's okay if they are touching, if they're covering each other. No worries. But we just want to make sure that we're going to get the breadcrumbs and the cheese sauce on all of them. Okay, so there we go. Now, if your cheese sauce gets too thick for you, I like it thick like this, but if you want it thinner, absolutely add just a little bit more plant milk. I don't mind these kind of little lumps. They're not flour, I promise. It's just little cheesy lumps. If you want yours to be absolutely flowing with no lumps, then you can use an immersion blender, but you know, I don't care because it tastes good. So we're going to just pour that over the top of our Brussels sprouts, and it is going to give us cheesy goodness. And you want to scrape out all of that yumminess. Okay. So we're just going to spread that out a little bit. Make sure all those Brussels are covered and looking good. Okay, I could fiddle all day. All right, so get in there. Now we are going to, hang on. Okay. We're going to add the panko breadcrumbs to the top. If you wanted to, you could add almond flour instead and make this super low carb, but I'm going to go for the panko breadcrumbs. I'm just adding 2 teaspoons of nutritional yeast. You can absolutely omit that if you don't like nutritional yeast. And then I'm just going to add a pinch of paprika to give me that color. Toss that around. I don't like dirtying dishes, so I'm just going to toss it in there. as it is. And then we're just going to spread these over the top with our hands because it's easier. Just to give it a little bit of a crunch, make it a little au gratin. But again, you could use almond flour if you prefer. But the panko gives it a little more crunch, but it also gives it a little more carbs. So you decide what's right for you. All right, we have our Brussels sprout casserole ready to go into the oven, 400 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes. And just a little tip on your casseroles to save you a nightmare of cleaning. If you run a towel, wet paper, whatever you got, regular towel, whatever you want, around the sides and get off any extra cheese drips, and make sure the sides are clean. Then it won't bake on. You won't have to soak the dish, as my husband likes to do, for 24 hours, and then I have to go back at it. But you won't have to use a lot of elbow grease if you go ahead and wipe off beforehand. All right, 400 degrees, 12 to 15 minutes. See you when it's done. And here is our Brussels sprout casserole. If you want a little more brown on top, you could always put it under the broiler for a minute or two to get it a little more brown. But that's what we've got.